The 2012 United Nations Climate Change Conference was the 18th yearly session of the Conference of the Parties to the 1992 United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the 8th session of the Meeting of the Parties to the 1997 Kyoto Protocol. The conference took place from Monday 26 November to Saturday 8 December 2012, at the Qatar National Convention Centre in Doha. The conference reached an agreement to extend the life of the Kyoto Protocol, which had been due to expire at the end of 2012, until 2020, and to reify the 2011 Durban Platform, meaning that a successor to the protocol is set to be developed by 2015 and implemented by 2020. Wording adopted by the conference incorporated for the first time the concept of loss and damage, an agreement in principle that richer nations could be financially responsible to other nations for their failure to reduce carbon emissions. The United Nations Climate Change Conferences are annual multilateral meetings of governments held in different locations around the world under the sponsorship of the United Nations, that serve as a forum for countries to discuss climate change matters. The conferences seek to address the threat of global warming caused by greenhouse gas emissions like carbon dioxide. Between 2000 circumflex 2011 carbon dioxide growth in the atmosphere was 20% of the total concentration growth since prehistoric level. The concentration of carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere has reached 391 ppm. As of October 2012 versus the pre-industrial concentration was 280 ppm, which the consensus of world climate scientists agree is unsustainable. The conferences are attended by dignitaries, and sometimes heads of state from most countries, and generally draw significant activity by various environmental advocacy groups. Consequently, the conferences are generally well covered by the world media agencies. The 2012 conference is held at the Qatar National Convention Centre in Doha, and with a projected attendance of 17,000 participants, it is expected to be the largest conference to have ever been held in Qatar. The conference is casually called the COP18/CMP8 conference, but these are technically different, but closely related and sometimes integrated conferences. In 2012, the UNFCCC conference serves as an umbrella for 7 concurrent and interrelated meeting groups collectively called the Doha 2012 UNFCCC conference. The main conference is also preceded by several topical pre-sessions. The conference will sometimes see late-night working sessions, when diplomats cannot agree to the terms and conditions of agreements, and sometimes staged walkouts by some parties is not uncommon. The last several conferences of this type have suffered from impasses in the first week and a half of talks, followed by a series of rounds of very late-night discussions, sometimes followed by an extension of the conference which finally yields a modest progress agreement. External to the conference generally attracts well-organized protests, rallies and demonstrations by various environmental groups urging the participants to reach an agreement on the topic of climate change policy. In recent conferences, some activist groups have given daily informal awards to countries that they see as advancing or detracting from their particular ideological position. An 8-year extension of the Kyoto Protocol until 2020 limited in scope to only 15% of the global carbon dioxide emissions due to the lack of participation of Canada, Japan, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, New Zealand and the United States, and due to the fact that developing countries like China, India, and Brazil are not subject to any emissions reductions under the Kyoto Protocol. Language on loss and damage, formalized for the first time in the conference documents. The conference made little progress towards the funding of the Green Climate Fund. Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine objected at the end of the session, as they have a right to under the session's rules. In closing the conference, the President said that he would note these objections in his final report,